Criminal justice outcomes can be confusing to understand. Most victims have never heard of out-of-court resolutions, so it's important that police officers explain to you what they are and how they work. This video will give you an overview of the out-of-court resolutions used in Devon and Cornwall, and how this can be a beneficial option for victims of crime. We'll also look at restorative justice and how it can work alongside out-of-court resolutions. Out-of-court resolutions are a range of options used by the police to address less serious offences without resorting to formal court proceedings. They were previously known as out-of-court disposals. These resolutions aim to provide swift justice for victims, hold the offender to account, and potentially reduce reoffending. They are generally used for less serious crimes and may involve an apology, financial penalties, or other restorative measures. There's a misconception that out-of-court resolutions are a soft option. However, there's evidence that they are more successful at reducing reoffending compared to similar offences that go to court. The police use a decision-making guide known as the gravity matrix to achieve the right outcome for an investigation. They use the gravity matrix to assess the seriousness of a crime and to decide on the appropriate and proportionate outcome. It's important that the officer in the case makes sure that they speak to you, listen, and respond to your view before deciding how to resolve a case. The decision might be that an out-of-court resolution is the most appropriate option. This applies to both under 18s and adults. Using one of these outcomes ensures that a victim has faster access to justice and can avoid unnecessary delays or going to court. A community resolution is often used for a first-time, less serious offence where the offender has accepted responsibility for their behaviour. It can often involve the victim being compensated for damage caused or an apology from the offender. It is a justice system outcome that enables an intervention to address the offending behaviour, but does not lead to a criminal record. There are different forms of cautions for adults and children. In Devon and Cornwall, we use a youth caution, adult simple caution, or a conditional caution. Some have conditions attached to them and some do not, but they all result in a criminal record for the offender. If conditions are not met, then the case may be sent to the CPS, who will decide if they should appear in court. Deferred prosecution refers to a decision to pause a prosecution or a caution. This pause holds the offender to account through a 16-week contract of conditions aimed at addressing and preventing their offending. The conditions in the contract will be agreed with the police. This might include conditions such as not reoffending during the time of the contract, engaging with drug and alcohol services, paying compensation to the victim, or being banned from a location or having no contact with the victim. If the offender does not comply with their contract, they could be sent to court. We use deferred prosecution instead of going straight to court because there's evidence that suggests it can be a more beneficial option for everyone involved. Offenders who go through the deferred prosecution process are less likely to reoffend when you compare them to other people who have committed similar offences and gone to court. The conditions in their contract will hold them accountable for their actions and help them address underlying issues like addiction or mental health which might be linked to their offending. Sometimes victims think that they will get a better outcome, for example more compensation, if they go to court. In reality, this tends not to be the case. Most similar cases will only receive a fine at court, and the process is usually less swift at delivering compensation than if the case was dealt with out of court. Out-of-court resolutions have benefits for victims and offenders. Victims avoid going to court, and it can be a quicker path to justice for them. They're not subject to delays. If applicable, compensation payments can be set up quickly. Victims can have a voice in what might be suitable compensation, for example making good any damage that has been caused. The offender must comply with conditions that are bespoke to their needs and aimed at reducing the likelihood of reoffending, so that they do not commit harm again. And under deferred prosecution, adult offenders, where able and if it's applicable, should undertake some activity that benefits others of the community. If deferred prosecution is used, a key worker from the out-of-court resolutions team will attempt to contact victims to ensure they understand what's involved and are linked in to extra support. Victims of crime are entitled to be given information on the outcome of an investigation and subsequent decision. A police officer should speak to the victim and listen to their view before deciding how to resolve their case. They should also give them updates and explain the decision so that it's clear and easy to understand. Victims should also be offered restorative justice. This is a voluntary process that runs parallel to the criminal justice system and can be accessed at any time. These are covered by the Victims Code, which sets out a minimum standard of services that must be provided to victims of crime. Restorative justice gives the opportunity for people harmed by a crime and the people responsible for the harm to share how the crime has affected them. It lets everyone involved play a part in repairing the harm and finding a positive way forward. This is a voluntary process where a facilitator will help the victim and the person who caused the harm to communicate with each other. They're trained to assess risks and make sure that the process is safe for everybody involved. Communication between the victim and the offender can be a face-to-face meeting or a letter, recorded audio interview, or video. The process will only take place if both victim and offender want it to. In Devon and Cornwall, we use a commissioned service called Make Amends to manage restorative justice. To find out more, contact our Victim Care Unit by visiting victimcare-dc.org or call the 24-hour support line on 0808 168 91111.